Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to the energy report for the month of September. I know I'm a week late. Deal with it. Better late than never. The card that I pulled way back in January for the month of September feels so freaking perfect to me. It feels so accurate. I can't even believe it. It's blowing my mind. The card was the Eight of Pentacles. Now, the Pentacles is the suit of the material, the tangible, the physical, the manifested reality that we are currently experiencing. And traditionally, the Eight of Pentacles is talking about mastering our craft. And it's like, somebody who is working at honing their skills in a particular area that has to do with something tangible, something physical. The reason this card feels so on point to me is number one, because could there be a more Virgoan card? Honestly, we're in Virgo season. It's it's such a Virgo thing. Like diligently applying yourself consistently day after day to mastering your craft, getting into the details, dotting all your I's, crossing all your T's. It just feels like such a Virgo energy to me. Plus it's like the energy of going back to school. But also, it feels so apt and poignant because all I have been guided to talk about lately is number one, manifestation, as I'm sure you've noticed, assuming that you follow me if you're listening to this right now. I've just been talking about manifestation and timeline shifting ad nauseum. And also I've been talking about how consistency is key to everything, every single transformation that we could ever possibly experience in this materialized realm of reality. It comes through a process. In my opinion, we have been heavily programmed to feel a sense of entitlement. Not only have we been programmed to feel entitled, but we have also been programmed to expect instant gratification. It's a combination. I think it started really around the generation where I was a child. Maybe it was earlier on, but I was a child in the 80s, like a young child. And that's when there were first kids shows on TV more than one day a week. Like it wasn't just the Saturday morning cartoons. There were every day a week, there was a kids show on. In the evenings, and there were always commercials targeted towards our young psyches, filling us with things that we would want to have. And that just built upon itself through, all the successive generations, so that there is this sense of there's these cool things and I want them, and a sense of I should get to have them because so-and-so at school has them, and the commercial kind of implies that I should get to have them. It's really deep, real programming that is delivered through these, the subliminals and commercials to children to kind of mess with their perception of reality. So there's that piece. And then we live in the age of convenience and the age of the internet where we don't have to do all of the chop wood, carry water shit in life anymore. We have microwaves to warm our stuff up really quickly. We have electric tea kettles. We can turn on a faucet and water just runs out. We don't have to go pump our own water from the well. We don't have to do that stuff anymore. We still absolutely have inconveniences, but it's just different, And what that has done is it has caused us to kind of subconsciously expect results right away and to throw a little bit of a hissy fit if we don't get those results right away. And we don't really have the same inherent understanding that we have to stick to something and show up for it consistently every single day, even when we are not getting any results, in order to get to the point where we start experiencing results. And that's just true of everything. That's true if you want to learn a new language. It's true if you want to learn how to surf. It's true if you want to start playing the guitar. It's certainly true if you want to develop your psychic abilities. It's certainly true if you want to learn how to meditate. It's certainly true if you want to learn how to read the Akashic Records. And it's certainly true if you want to manifest something or shift onto a new timeline. You have to show up for it consistently every single day, even at the beginning, when it feels like it's not working and it's doing nothing. You have to. You can't give up in that phase. Our ancestors knew that. When our ancestors planted the seeds of their garden, first of all, they weren't buying seeds at the store for the most part. They were saving the seeds from the previous year's harvest and planting those. And then they didn't like have a meltdown or be like, this isn't working, or what am I doing wrong, or whatever, if it took a few weeks for those seeds to germinate and poke up through the soil. That was just to be expected. They understood that that is how this realm works. That is still how this realm works. It's still a process-based realm. We have forgotten that. I personally think that it is totally on purpose. To me, the entitlement and the instant gratification programs, it's like a double whammy. And to me, it feels like it's absolutely done on purpose, targeted towards children so that we are planted with those programs very early on. And we start to really see the fruition of it in adulthood when it's hard for us to make the necessary changes in our life to experience the transformation that we desire to experience. And I think it's like, man, the way I see it playing out in my oldest son's generation, he is 18 and a half. And I even see it in him. And he's like such an amazing human being. He is. First of all, he's Arcturian. He's 1,000 times wiser than I am. He is like an ancient soul. He truly came here to initiate me onto this path. I feel like my oldest son is my spirit guide. Like, I'm really lucky. One of my spirit guides is incarnated. He's my son. And he's still a human. And I see the way that these programs are affecting him. I see the way that he doesn't have a work ethic that, I mean, he'll work. Like, in no way do I want to criticize my son or throw him under the bus because I think he's the best. He will work if asked to work. He doesn't self-initiate. And that's just part of his personality makeup. But I see the entitlement programs working through him, and I see the instant gratification programs working through him, and I can see how young people of that general generation have really been, I don't know, it's almost like they've been like deactivated or something like that. Like, they're not as effective as they could be because they have this sense that they should just get things and they should get it now. And I'm not trying to criticize their personality or their character or their value as souls. Like, I'm not somebody who will ever participate in generation bashing, ever. I will never do it. I will never, ever be one of those people that says that, people born in the 1970s are somehow of a better caliber than people born in the 2000s. I just don't fucking think that's true at all. I think that we have been basically under a mind control campaign. And this is just one angle of it that I see. And I believe that it affects us. I see the way that it affects me. I absolutely have these entitlement programs running. Absolutely. I throw like toddler level hissy fits when I don't get the results that I want right away. It's very embarrassing. I give myself grace because it's the only real productive option available. I see the way that I expect instant gratification because the internet gives us, information at our fingertips. It gives us the ability to connect with somebody halfway across the world, like fairly instantaneously, right? It gives me the ability to order something on Amazon and expect it to arrive 2 days later. Even if you don't believe that this was a deliberate campaign to render us basically like ineffective, I'm sure you can agree that the internet has instilled us with a sense of expecting things to come right away. That doesn't really serve us. So the reason I'm harping on this is because I keep getting this urgent, I don't know, it's like guidance. It's almost like I have a council of higher dimensional beings behind me. If I were to look over my shoulder, I don't see them, but I can feel them back there. And by council, I mean whatever. It's like a group of 6 of them or something like that. That's what it feels like. I'm connected to them in the higher dimensions, and they're like, great, she's a mouthpiece. She can be an ambassador for these more urgent messages that need to come through because we got to keep humanity on track here. And the message that they're pushing through is manifestation. They're like, guys, you got to figure it out now. Like, it's time. It is time for you to figure out that you're actually running the show here. You are manifesting all of this. Figure it out. Step into this now and do it consciously. And the main barrier that I see to our successful manifestation is that difficulty, that resistance that we have in showing up to hone our skills, to hone our craft. Like, we don't want to put in the time to do it or something like that. I don't know. It's not like I even think that we're all spoiled or anything like that. Forever throat chakra things this year. It's crazy. It's not that I think that we're all spoiled. It's more like we just, I don't know. We've bought into this idea that like we don't have the time to do it. It's going to be too hard. I do that all the time. Constantly I do that. That's my running excuse. But the truth is that if you look at anybody who has ever achieved anything that we admire, ever, that person has earned it by showing up for it consistently over time. Like, if you think about the coolest musician imaginable, like your favorite musician, you're just like, that person is the shit. Like, they're so talented, so gifted. Do you think that they were just handed, what's that word? Like prodigy levels of guitar skill on a silver platter and they've never had to practice it? No, even if they were born with prodigy levels of skill, they still have to anchor it in to this timeline by choosing it and honing it, spending time with their instruments, spending time with their craft, cultivating that ability. So I feel like that's really what the energy report is for, the guidance is for the month of September, is like any transformation we want to experience, any transformation at all. We just have to understand that it is all in our control. All of it. Like, who do you want to become? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do with this next chapter of your life? What do you want to experience? What timeline do you want to be on? What do you want to manifest? Like, the answer to any of those questions is like, okay, then go ahead and do it. You can do it. You just take the first step. You don't have to know where all the steps are going to lead. You don't have to know the whole entire process. You just take the step today. And then tomorrow you take the next step. And then the next day you take the next one. And you just keep going on and on and on and let the journey lead you there. But that's how the transformation occurs. There's a lot of conversation in the topic of manifestation of like, how am I going to do it? And manifestation teachers will say like, the how isn't your problem. It's not your business. And that's true. It's totally true. But it can also feel really frustrating when you're trying to, like, we're functioning under a paradigm that we have to make something happen in a very like 3D way, like go out and commit action and do it. Like, for example, you want to find a job, then you have to start handing out resumes. That's not really necessarily true. But we're having to work at leaving that paradigm behind. It's the paradigm that we were raised within. It's the paradigm that we are trained to view reality through. It's not serving us anymore. But to just hear somebody say that the how isn't your business, it's sometimes not helpful because it feels like, okay, I hear you say that, but I'm still operating within this old paradigm. So what do I do? Like, what are you saying? That I'm just supposed to sit there and meditate and magically all of my shit will come to me? So I'll say that the how isn't our business insofar as you don't need to see the roadmap. You don't need to see the roadmap. You're like the kid in the backseat of the car. Somebody else is driving. You don't need to see the map. And even if you look at the map, you're not the one that's driving. You don't need to know where you're going. Your ego mind is what I'm talking about. Your human conscious ego mind, the part of you that is listening to this and filtering it consciously. That's the part of you that doesn't need to know how it's going to happen. But there is a role to play in the how. And that is in choosing to make incremental shifts that may or may not seem related to the transformation that you want to experience every day. So for example, I'm going to bring it back to manifestation because that's my thing right now. So let's say that you're wanting to manifest a career change. You want to shift into a career that is an expression of your soul purpose. And from where you are right now, that feels like a very tall order, and you have no idea how you're going to get there. And you want to make a whole bunch of money too, and you want to move across the country. Let's say you're manifesting all of that. You're wanting to shift into that timeline. The human mind obviously is going to be like, yeah, but how do we do it? And it's going to want to list out the steps as though there is some linear sequence of steps that must be taken in order to shift onto that timeline. Like the human conscious mind can barely even comprehend the concept of timeline shifting. It's like, no, we're in our timeline. How do we make this happen on our timeline? But really what's happening is that there is another timeline that exists parallel to this one that you're on, where you have that career, where you live across the country, and where you make a shit ton of money. And so your job is to shift into that timeline. And the way that you shift into it is by making changes in your life that take you off of your current probability pathway, whether they feel related to the outcomes you want to experience or not. So for example, that could be changing your eating patterns, like changing your diet so that you're eating in a way that is cleaner or more healthy or whatever you're guided towards intuitively. Or it could be starting a new workout program, one that you've never done before. Or it could be picking up a new hobby. Like these are all totally unrelated to the outcome that you want to experience. But do you know why these things are so important? Because they are taking you off of the current timeline that you're on. So they don't have to be directly related to your manifestation. They are just a decision to move into a different timeline. And it doesn't have to take you immediately into the timeline that you desire. It's kind of like shifting. I think I shared this on one of the other lives that I've done here in like the last month or something like that. But it's kind of like navigating passing lanes on a multi-laned highway. There are, like, if you want to get to the exit and you're in the leftmost lane and the off ramp is coming off the right lane, and there's four lanes across the whole highway, obviously you're not just going to leap immediately over to the right lane. What you're going to do is you're going to merge onto the next lane to your right when you have an opening. And then you're going to merge into the next lane to your right when you have an opening. And then you're going to merge into the right lane when you have an opening. And then you're going to take the off exit. It's like that. So when you decide to cultivate a new habit, a new practice, a new behavior, it has to be something, it's not something that you just do once, it's something that you show up and do on a daily basis. That is moving you off of your current probability pathway, therefore off of your current timeline and onto a different timeline. And if you're doing it in a direction that's healthy, that gives you more energy, that makes you feel more, alive or excited or inspired or proud of yourself or just something more positive, then it is going to move you in the direction of that other timeline. You don't need to know the speed at which all the other cars are moving. You don't need to know all, like, the color and the license plate of all the other cars. Like, all those details of how you're going to get there you don't need to know. When you're merging onto a different lane, you don't need to know 5 minutes ahead of time or 20 minutes ahead of time which two cars you're going to merge between. No, you respond in the moment. And that's what those passing lanes feel like as we're shifting timelines. They're not always these huge moments of like mind-blowing, like a portal is open and I'm stepping through it. It's like this little like squishy plasma spot in the realities where you make a decision, kind of like that movie from the 90s, Sliding Doors. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's really cute. It's starring Gwyneth Paltrow. But the premise of that movie is that there's two different timelines that she was on, and they played out differently, and they both kind of converged in the same sort of, like, it's saying like some things are kind of like destined, and so like some events are kind of pre-written into your story, but in between those events, there's so much there's so many timelines that are accessible. And her timeline was literally about getting onto a particular subway train or not. And so the sliding door of the subway train was the determining factor of whether she, stepped onto that other timeline or stayed on the one that she was currently on. It's like that, these innocuous little moments that you don't even necessarily notice, but you can learn to notice it. You can cultivate a lucidity in your present moment where you kind of feel that. You can't see my hand. I'm like doing this thing. Like you feel that plasma squishiness. You can feel that this seemingly throwaway moment is actually leading you in the direction that you want to go. But it feels like a moment that is just, totally average and totally normal. I kind of got off track of the Eight of Pentacles, but the point that I'm wanting to make is like, if you're wanting to change something in your life, then just change something in your life. Pick something to change, even if it doesn't seem related to what you're actually wanting to experience, and then just show up for it and do it every day. But also the Eight of Pentacles it's not really necessarily talking about taking on a new behavior or a new hobby or whatever, although that guidance came through, so it's still valid. But the Eight of Pentacles is talking about honing a craft that we have already accepted for ourselves. So becoming the master of your craft, something that you're already good at. So, if you're a potter with clay, then it would be like mastering that craft as a potter. And the way that I translate that, given the energy of this month, is first of all, to get serious about whatever thing you have already been cultivating for yourself and take it to the next level. Like, it's time to sort of like put your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and find out what happens when you graduate it from like hobby to something that you really take seriously. And then the other piece of guidance, the way that I interpret it, is that manifestation is something that we already do. Anyway, we already do it. This is already our gift. It's already our skill. It's just that most of us are doing it totally unconsciously. Like, we don't remember the mechanics of it. We don't remember how it works. And we have been trained to believe that we have to do this, like this linear stuff. Like, you want a job, search the classifieds and email your resume out 1,000 times. Like, we have been trained to think that that's what we have to do rather than manifest. And so we're unaware, most of us, that this is our gift, but it is our gift. You are literally doing it right now. It's impossible for us not to do it. So to me, this message is like, now cultivate mastery over it. Now bring it into your like conscious awareness where you are observing yourself, learning about yourself, learning your patterns. What are your triggers? What are your joys? What are your deepest desires? What are your priorities? What actually matters to you? Where are you self-sabotaging? Why are you self-sabotaging? What are you afraid of? What are you trying to protect yourself from? Learn about yourself. Like, don't worry about manifestation as though it's like some kind of technique you have to perfect. It's more like learn about yourself and start to make the correlations between what you're seeing in your externally manifested reality and what you are experiencing inwardly. What stories you're telling yourself about your life and who you are, the character that you are, and what themes you're playing out. Like, just start to learn about yourself and notice how you're already creating, and then learn how to adjust those dials so that you can create more consciously and intentionally that which you truly desire to experience. We are the animators of the timelines. The timelines are kind of like these, they almost look like tunnels. Do you like, you know, those holograms, like holograms that are depicted on TV or in movies or whatever, where it looks like something is real, but you can put your hand through it. It's just made of light. That's what the different timelines look like to me. They just look like different tracks of the story that they're kind of moving, but they're limited in their movement, and they're just made of light. They're insubstantial. So there's nothing solid to it. We are the ones who turn it into something solid. We animate it. So we plug ourselves into one of those holographic timelines and funnel our energy and attention into it, and it like blooms into this whole sensorial experience that we know of as reality. The problem is that, you know, the knowledge of how to move through these timelines has been obscured from us, in my opinion, deliberately. So then we think that what has bloomed around us into this sensorial, physically, materially manifested reality is the only reality. And we don't realize that there are a whole bunch of other timelines to choose from. And it just feels to me like it's fucking time now. That's what these, you know, higher dimensional beings behind me keep saying. They're just like, it's time. It's time. You have to do it. I've been getting this message since the end of 2021, that like we are supposed to manifest our happiest ending. Like we need to take the cap off what we think we can manifest, and just like let ourselves dream up into the highest. Like I was seeing it like when I first got this message for the very first time, I was thinking about somebody I know who, like, he always said that he wanted to have a twirly slide coming down from the top floor of his house. And he was like a man in his 40s. And I was like, that's the level of dreaming that we have to allow ourselves to return to, is just dreaming up the most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing, because you're not dreaming it up like it's just this imaginary thing that can never happen. It exists as a possibility. Otherwise, you wouldn't even detect it. It wouldn't be like, it wouldn't register for you. So I just feel like they keep telling me, like, this is what you're supposed to do, because there's no reason not to. There's absolutely zero reason anymore not to do this. So do it. And they're telling me, teach people how to do it. So that's what I'm doing. And that's how I interpret this beautiful card for the month of September. Harness that energy, that beautiful Virgoan energy, and just focus it into mastering your craft, whatever that may be it manifestation, hopefully that's how you feel, or anything else, any other transformation that you want to experience. If you do want to learn about manifestation and timeline shifting, you want to learn about the mechanics, you want to learn how to do it consciously, I'm hosting a 90-day manifestation boot camp, because I want to whip your ass into shape, basically, and like keep your head in the game so that you don't give up in those early initial phases where it feels like nothing's working, and is this even, like, am I even doing this right? Is anything happening? Am I just wasting my time? You're not wasting your time. I want to keep your head in the game. So I'm running it as a boot camp for 90 days straight of daily inspiration, motivation, tips, tricks, hacks, all the things. I'm just going to show up and riff about manifestation, whatever's coming through. I have been working on this already for a few months myself. I'm going to be doing this work alongside all of you who join me. We're also going to do bi-weekly Q&A calls where you can just show up, ask me your questions, and I'll answer as many questions as I can within the generously allotted time. And we're just going to sort your shit out. You're going to manifest. You're going to remember how to timeline jump, because you can do it. You absolutely can. It doesn't require any kind of special skill that you don't have. It just requires remembering how to do it, and then overcoming those entitlement programs and those instant gratification programs that cause so many of us to quit before we start seeing the results. We just have to stick to it. And there's a community for like party vibes, accountability, all the fun. Low-key commiseration, because sometimes we just got to show up and bitch, right? But it's going to be such a great time. There are already a good handful of people in it, and I cannot wait. So if you want to join, then check out the link in my bio. It is less than $7 a day. I made this as affordable as I can possibly make it, as I run it and do all the work and, you know, host it and all the stuff. So please, please join me. I would love to have you. There are payment plans. Otherwise, If you're not joining me, then please harness this energy, as I said, and focus it into honing your craft and just like cultivating and developing the amazing gifts that you have, the amazing person that you are. Take yourself seriously and take it to the next level. Oh, thanks for liking my vernacular. I appreciate it. What would you do if you knew you're completely supported? Totally, Witchy Kind of Woman, official, exactly. We are completely supported. And I know that can sound like such fluff, especially if you've had a hard life. It can sound like such insubstantial bullshit that we are completely supported. But we are, and the thing is that I just feel very strongly that nobody is coming to save us. And I know that some people might feel differently. But if we keep waiting for somebody to come save us, or we keep waiting for somebody else to enact justice on our behalf because we lived through unjust things, we're going to be waiting in that story forever, when really it's totally available to us right now to decide that we're leaving that story, and we are accepting that we are supported. We are accepting that we are the animators of whatever timeline we choose, and we just step into that. Okay. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry that I can't read all the comments. I have to go pick up my kids from school, but thank you for being here. I love you. I hope you have an amazing month of September, and I hope I get to see some of you in the Manifestation Bootcamp. Okay. Love you. Bye.